Okay, in this video, I'm going to walk you through challenge number 8, the horror movie poster. So this is what you're making, okay? There are a lot of steps. Please make sure you follow them exactly because otherwise you're going to screw it all up, okay? So make sure you're following all the steps. The first thing you're going to do is download this movie poster starter pack. So you're going to click on it. You're going to click the download arrow in the top right. When you download it, it will go into your download folder. And then you're going to go to Photoshop. You're going to open, and it's going to say you're going to say movie poster starter pack.psd. That's what you're going to open. Okay. If you look in the layer section, you're going to have 3 layers: credit, skull, and concrete. I want you to hide the credit layers and make sure you have your skull layer selected. We're going to work on that one right now. Okay. All right. So we're going to right click on the skull layer, convert it to a smart object. So in the layer section, right click your skull layer and find where it says convert to smart object and click. Okay. Now, the next step, you are going to double click the little skull icon in the layer section. This is going to open the skull in its own document. We're going to use the magic wand. We're going to select the black background. We're going to select the inverse. We're going to copy and paste the skull onto its own layer. We're going to hide the original. I'm going to walk you through all those steps, so don't worry if I went too fast right there. Okay, the first thing you're going to do is watch where my mouse is going in the layer section, the bottom right. Okay, this little black and white picture of the skull. I want you to take your mouse and double click on it. When you do, notice it opened a second document. We have our original document that has our 3 layers, and then we have our skull document. Okay. I want you to find the magic wand on the toolbar. So on the 4th tool down, if you hold your mouse down, you're going to see the magic wand. Click on that, and I want you to take that magic wand. I want you to click on the black background. You're going to see the little ants dancing around. Okay, I don't want the background selected. I want the skull selected. So we're going to go up to select. We're going to choose inverse, which is the opposite. That selects just the skull. And then on our keyboard, we're going to do Control C, Control V to copy and paste the skull onto its own layer. So Control C, Control V. Look over in your layer section. Now you have the layer 1 skull without a background. I want you to click on the little eyeball next to the one with the black background to hide the black background, so you only see the one that has no background. Okay. I'm going to go back to the instructions. We are going to we're going to duplicate our layer. But when you duplicate your layer, right click, duplicate layer. Do not close out of the little pop-up box. Leave it open. Under document, instead of skull 1, I want you to click the down pointing arrow and choose new. And then at the bottom of the box where it says name, I want you to type bloody, oops, I have my cap lock on, bloody skull. And then you can click OK. And that renames this, it was the 3rd document, and it calls it Bloody Skull. And then I think we're going to close this one out. We're going to go to File, Save As. We're going to save it on our computer into our Downloads folder, and then we'll close it out. Okay, so File, Save As. We're going to choose this On Your Computer button in the bottom left. Make sure you are in your Downloads folder and click Save. And now you can close just this little X right here for the Bloody Skull. And we're going to be working on this skull document, okay? I'm going to go back to the instructions. We are on step 4. Select the skull document that is still open, and we're going to add a new layer by clicking the plus symbol. We're going to drag that new layer so it's between our 2 skull layers. We're going to change our foreground color to black. Okay, so we're on our skull layer. We're in our skull document. Go to the bottom right corner, that little toolbar on the bottom right, find the little square with the plus symbol, and click on it. That adds a new layer. Notice we have layer 2, layer 1, skull. In your layer section, I want you to drag layer 2 so it's between layer 1 and the skull. Okay, notice it's in between. And then before we move on, can everyone just make sure your foreground, on our toolbar, bottom left of your toolbar, make sure your foreground color is set to black, okay? Doesn't matter what your background color is, just make sure your foreground is black. Okay, I'm going to go back to the instructions. On step 7, we're going to hold the Control key on our keyboard. We're going to click the little picture of the skull to select it. We're going to select our blank new layer, and then our keyboard, we're going to hold Alt-Delete. Okay, so on your keyboard, hold Control. While you are holding Control, go to your layer 1, the skull, the little picture of the skull that has no background. Hold Control, click on that little picture. Look at the little dancing ants going around. Okay, make sure your layer 2 is selected. Notice my layer 2 is selected. On my keyboard, I'm going to hold Alt and then press Delete. Alt, Delete. Look what it did. It turned layer 2 into a black skull. That's exactly what we want. Okay, now I can deselect the skull by doing Control D. and we can move on to the next step. So I'm going to go back to my instructions. We just did step 10, Control D. Okay, step 11, duplicate layer 1 skull layer. So I'm going to go back, make sure layer 1 is selected, right click, duplicate layer. Okay, and then you can click OK. Okay, you do not have to rename it or anything. Select the layer 1 copy layer. We're going to go to the adjustments button on the toolbar and we're going to choose levels. When we are in levels, under the graph, we're going to see 3 small text boxes and we're going to change the numbers. Okay, so make sure layer 1 copy is selected. Go to that toolbar in the bottom right corner, click your adjustment circle, and you're going to go to levels. Levels. Okay, here's our graph. Notice the 3 text boxes here. One is a 0, one is a 1.00, one is a 255. We're going to change those numbers. We're going to make them 91, here it is, 91, 1.54, 205. Okay, so in the first one, instead of 0, I want you to change it to 91. The second one, instead of 1, 1.54. And the third one, instead of 255, 205. Okay, you can kind of see the look that it gave here, right? Okay, we're almost done. We're going to select the layer 1 skull layer and change the opacity to 60. So go back to your layer section, choose the layer 1, not layer 1 copy, but layer 1. And under opacity, make it 60. And you can type it in if you don't want to use the scroll. Okay. Now we're going back to the layer 1 copy layer and we're going to add a mask. Make sure our foreground color is black and our background color is white. So layer 1 copy, again, select your layer 1 copy layer. Go to your toolbar in the bottom right. The mask button is the rectangle with the little gray circle in it. Go ahead and click on it. Let's check our colors. So go to the bottom of your toolbar, make sure your foreground is black and your background is white. Okay. And then we're going to add a gradient. So we're going to click the gradient tool. We're going to use the basic folder. We're going to choose the second option, which is foreground to transparent. We're going to drag our mouse from the top of the skull to the top of the eye socket to create a gradient on the forehead. So find your gradient tool. It's about halfway down. If you don't see it, if you see the paint bucket, it's hidden under the paint bucket. Okay, so there's gradient. I'm going to go to the top. I'm going to click on this down pointing arrow next to color, and you're going to see the basics folder right here. I want you to click this little arrow next to basics, and you're going to choose the second option that says foreground to transparent. Okay, watch where my mouse is going. It's going to start at the top center of the forehead, and I'm going to drag straight down to the top of the eye socket. I'm going to let go, and it adds a gradient to the forehead. Okay, we're going to click this X right here to close this. When it asks if we want to save, we're going to say yes. Okay, it closes that out. And then we have one last thing to do before we move on to the next section. We're going to select the skull layer. We're going to change the blend mode from normal to overlay. So I'm going to go back to Photoshop, go to my layer section, make sure the skull is selected. Instead of normal, I want you to choose overlay. Okay. I'm going to stop this video here and I'm going to start a second video for the rest of this. Okay, so we'll stop this video and then I'll add a second video.